everybody. I wish all of you a very happy, purposeful, and a peaceful 2024. May it bring you and your friends and family lots of peace and joy. And may you get biceps like Pranay Rangra, who just showcased the brawny side of things.
The broken tooth.
Pranay and I. Pranay and I have the great pleasure, as always, to bring you another episode of the CaughtAtPoint podcast. This is episode number 37, Pranay, which I was 37,000 years back in terms of age. I think we are aging well, probably not like the finest of wines, but lots happening in South African cricket, lots happening in the Indian cricket, Pranay. Welcome, and let's get straight to the talking matter.
Yeah, Dave, wish you a very happy 2024. Wish the viewers a very happy 2024. So, Dave, finally, I think the test series two had one apiece, and India was very charged to conquer the final frontier, as they put it. But that couldn't happen. But the Newlands test, I must say, just got over in 672 balls. That was a shocker. I mean,
It was absolutely a shocker.
they put a match in a stadium
Absolutely.
with a provincial board that had no money to host a test match. Do you know that? So
I'm not really aware to the extent of that situation. I'm afraid.
I can just spend 2 minutes on that. So the Newlands Cricket Board has been
Please.
debt-ridden, and Cricket South Africa bailed them out to give them this test match and some T20 tournaments in the SA T20 League, T20 matches rather. And the curator of the pitch, the guy who manages the stadium, Brang Mong, his name is, he is just a part-time curator because he works for the rugby stadiums also in Cape Town. So that is how South the thing is right now for Newlands, and they went and hosted a test match, which, I mean, India played well, they won the game. But for a neutral or for fans at large, just getting over in 2 days wasn't really very amicable, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. An advertisement for a two-day test match is not very healthy and conducive for the state of cricket, not that it was any. But I think definitely in the aftermath, if I remember correctly, the ICC, the revered ICC, found the pitch to be rather unsatisfactory if you read about it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think these are the kind of things, these are the kind of just the kind of things that Test cricket, given the times that it is in amid,
yeah.
rather should not should be doing well to avoid. And but I think on the whole, an interesting and evenly fought Test series. Yet again, the final frontier for us Indians that we could not conquer. And I wanted to also, Pranay, quickly bring you into the discussion about a brief discussion about the one and only, the legendary Protea, Dean Elgar. Not a legend for many of the Indian fanboys or for the fanboys of South African cricket, but definitely a legend and a dean of batting for holding fort with much grace and aplomb, at least one end in Test cricket for as long as he did.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, in this advent of, not rather advent now, in this ongoing saga of T20 cricket, a guy who's holding his 5-day fortitude strong is like really commendable, yeah. And I mean, with the South Africa 20 that just started, the one that happened last year also, Dean Elgar hasn't been taken by any of the teams. So that's his commitment, and that's his sort of longing for Test cricket. And I mean, that's reason enough to just pay homage to the guy, yeah, because everyone wants to do T20 now. Everyone wants to earn the big bucks. Everyone wants to travel, play for different leagues, shorten their careers. But here's a guy who still salutes Test cricket. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy for, say, any other guy who's playing T20 tournaments and also in the Test team to ask that, are you still in cahoots with Test cricket? They would say, yeah, but you give them the money, they'll still go and play the T20 leagues. So, I mean,
Right.
keeping his cricket career aside, I just think that his commitment to Test cricket is reason enough to salute the guy.
Right. No, I was actually avidly reminded, and I'm not trying to, market you or your writing in any way. Not that it needs to be marketed at all. It stands on its own ground. I'm reminded of that article, The Blossoming Protea, which you had written, I think, half a decade back. And immediately after you wrote that article, or maybe if not immediately, then after some time, he hit that 199, his highest test score.
Yeah.
and an innings that he hit, in the process of which an innings, uh, he previously his highest score was 148. So in the process of making 199, he definitely bettered it, and then that stays as one of the best test knocks ever played by a South African batsman. And what a champion, Dean Elgar. We salute you at CaughtAtPoint. Moving on, Pranay, some rather not so interesting developments in South African cricket with regards to a young average cricketer having taken a stance, particularly with regards to the Middle East. And what's all that about? And where do you think this is going? Just the other day, we were reminded of Usman Khwaja also having been stopped from giving a message out on his boots. Previously, MS Dhoni, the legendary Mahendra Singh Dhoni, of course, the icon of the game, was stopped from wearing, the camouflaged wicket-keeping gloves, if I remember correctly. So, what's all this about, and what is your personal take on this as a cricket writer, as a fan, as an astute observer of the game?
So, Dave, I think increasingly politics and sports are becoming intertwined, but one wants to keep it under the facade of not intertwining them, if you just understood what I meant. They are getting
Yes, I
intertwined,
did.
but they want to say that politics and sports should be kept apart. And if you have a
Right.
personal view on anything which is not cricket,
Hmm.
as a celebrity, as a sports person, you can't cite that to the public. That's what's
But
happened.
wait, I
Uh,
have to warn you. I have a spy device called the Falexa, and it listens to everything. So the Interpol will come and raid our houses if you say anything controversial. No, I'm just kidding. Please continue. You had a point.
yeah, eat an apple a day, keep the doctor away. Phallic, sir.
Alexa.
Okay,
Failed Alexa. Sorry. We
yeah.
love you, Alexa. But don't listen to everything we say, please. Don't listen. We love you, Alexa.
So in a more serious vein, David Teager, who was till recently the under 19 captain, he had given a opinion, not an opinion, just a statement on a particular country, which is war ridden with another country. And Cricket South Africa didn't take that too kindly. And now he's just been removed from the captaincy, though he's still in the team under the whole context of his own personal safety, which is beyond me.
So, in the fear of being judged as being not that I personally care and being judged, judge me for all I care, but in the fear of being misinterpreted or misconstrued, I completely understand the stands on the part of the cricket boards, Pranay, because of course they are at the end of the day accountable for the kind of people that they select, their administration selects ultimately to represent this great game, which is no longer just a gentleman's game, but everybody's game. Let's face facts in this part of the 21st century. With respect to every person, every region, every country in the world, whether it is war torn or not, and may there never be a war on any part of the world. But my only question is that sport is such a massive unifier. So if I really have a stance, and I also have a massive social media presence outside the 22 yards, but because of my achievements on the 22 yards, I'm just confused. Where should I be, offering my vocal support? Through the sport, the paraphernalia, the equipment that I wear in a live pitch, or can I actually just keep it on my social media profile for the message to then reach out to the larger volumes that it still does? So from if I do the latter, there's never a harm. In fact, it's good. And I don't personally understand how I'm damaging the contour of the sport on its whole. And I say this with massive, massive regard to the upkeepers and upholders of the spirit and the ethos of cricket. Where do I then put out the message? Because I think if a player wants to put a message on his boot or on his glove, then he wants that to be deliberate, because people who are also, and I'm just trying to think on his behalf, I could be wrong here. I think it's because of the tens and thousands and dozens of people who are turning up for a live cricket match in the stadia for them to understand. However, they can still get the message if I just put it on my Insta, Twitter, or whatever. Your thoughts?
I think, Dave, if you, as a sporting celebrity, if you want to be really safe with your personal opinions, give them in an unbugged bathroom.
Okay.
जहाँ पे सिर्फ तुम खुद से बात कर रहे हो और कोई है नहीं. But
And Mossad and Raw are not there in the rawest form possible.
but
Hi, Mossad, we have nothing against you,
the
but
more
yeah, we
serious
love you.
point, I think we as sporting fans, as cricket fans, need to judge talent on their ability rather than their thinking. Because everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? You can't be judging a player
Right,
for what he thinks. Judge him for the way he plays.
right.
Because you can't dictate a person's opinion basis your liking for that person.
Absolutely.
The way
Well
we
said.
as cricket fans, fanatics, so-called, some people call the other person a fanboy, whatever the case be, just judge people for their ability, because that's what they're bringing to the table. Like you and me are writers, we should be judged basis what we write, not in terms of what we think as our personal opinion, because that we won't put to paper.
Yeah, and we should definitely not be judged for trolling each other on social media, which I think last happened when India was still being ruled by a country which was not so amicable in those days. But yeah, one which we shall take the pleasure of beating and hammering left, right, and center. Your thoughts on the fast approaching India versus England Test series? Chiteshwar Pujara has not been named. Dhruv Jorel has been named. I think a new dawn for another bright youngster. And are you going to be watching that series very carefully? Remember, it doesn't have South Africa playing in it.
Uh, I would want to see what basketball does in India, yeah, because basketball's been
Mm-hmm.
successful in England. They've
Hmm.
they've annihilated South Africa in England. Before that, they annihilated South Africa in South Africa. I think I don't know whether they've gone to Australia and they've beaten the Aussies. I'm not too sure about that. But I want to see McCullum and Stokes strategy in India on the turning
Mm-hmm.
backs, because typical Indian wickets also get test matches over in 2.5 days. So that'll be exciting. Maybe they
Yeah,
come
and I really think it'll be,
aggressively.
yeah,
Indian spinners are at their peak. So how does that battle happen is something to look forward to. So
that'll be
not
lovely.
from
And
a,
I'm really expecting, sorry to interject completely.
yeah, I'm
Go
saying
ahead.
not from an individual standpoint, but I want to see how basketball as a unit performs in India. I'm very keen to see that.
Right, right. I'm sure that the trollers of England cricket, of course, Michael Vaughan not included there, they would like to have a baseball bat to settle scores with the the sometimes not so amicable or happy English fans. But I really think that it could be a very closely contested series, and England, having had the kind of year that they had in 2023, would want to bounce back with a vengeance. Of course, I was personally surprised and actually also happy for the other team's perspective when I speak here, in due consideration of the West Indies' victory over the English very recently. But I was also surprised that England, who had very, very talented youngsters, on that tour, they still weren't able to, really put their foot down and press the accelerator. And but yeah, it was nice to see Joss Butler returning among some runs towards the fag end of that series in the Caribbean. But I really think that talents like Mohammad Siraj, who's been really blowing all kinds of spokes and who's been in dismissive form, I'd be very excited personally to see him counter the English um, batsman. And one of those marauding ones could be the very affable, the very lovely, and the very congenial Joe Root. I've never asked you this question, and I want to today. What are your impressions of Joe Root? We've never really had an episode based on him either, and I think we should soon do. But your thoughts on Root?
I think for the longest part, he was the root cause of all England runs, at least in Test and ODI cricket. So I think that
Okay.
answers it. No, but
Yeah, and what happens? And what happens when Joe parties or picnics at a canal? It becomes a root canal. No, please. Sorry. I'm going. Bye.
but there
Right.
was this whole thing of the big four, right? I think that still continues in world cricket. Kane Williamson of New Zealand, Steve Smith of Australia, our very own Virat
How dare you did not take Virat Kohli's name first, Pranay?
Kohli. Sorry.
Out you go and abandon your passport. Abandon it right now. So we just want to remind our
मैं
viewers
लोगों के
that we really
विराट सोच से गिर चुका हूँ.
तुम्हारे तो मैं देखता हूँ अभी अभी भेजता हूँ मैं दिल्ली के चिकन टिक्के तुम्हारे पीछे रुको तुम अभी जरा So we want to tell our viewers that we are huge fans of Virat, but we're not fanboys. And one incident from 2023, I'm just randomly recollecting. It's just a funny, breezy Sunday morning, foggy morning rather, or should I call it smoggy morning in Delhi, which has sort of led me to this joke. And it was kind of a joke. Please don't take it very seriously. I found it particularly amusing that the day when Glenn Maxwell's breathtaking double hundred in the World Cup was being talked about and tweeted incessantly about, suddenly there was an army of fans who just said Virat's shot of the century against Pakistan in that T20 World Cup, whilst an ODI World Cup is actually going on. Then suddenly Virat Kohli starts to trend. So the kind of impact that the former Indian captain and a batting great, a generational great can have, that he denied Glenn Maxwell his humble stay for those 24 hours on Twitter's psyche. So yeah, I mean, I'm just reminded of that. That was interesting because I woke up in the morning and said Glenn Maxwell is trending. Of course, why? Who else would trend? And then suddenly I see Virat Kohli is trending. A shot of the century is being discussed. But yeah, that was, well, that's quite incredible. The games that cricket plays and the games that we have in cricket, which reminds me of a breathtaking contest which might actually not be so breathtaking. Or how would you feel if I was to ask you the West Indies tour of Australia? A weakened batting, lots of new names in the Caribbean camp, lots of familiar names sort of backing out, if backing out is the right word, and of course a mighty Australian team minus Dave Warner, all ready to take on the Caribbean youngsters.
I think Dave, certainly from Craig's point of view, Brad shouldn't wait for a victory. But,
Okay.
but in a more serious light, I think does West Indies really have it to beat Australia, the fancied Australia team now in Australia? I wouldn't give
They
them,
do.
but they do.
They do. Yeah, yeah, they do, of course. They have purely in terms of the makeup of the team. And I really think that there are some very interesting names on this particular tour. And the only concerning department to me, see, it's never say never in cricket, Pranay. Of course, that's always been the ultimate unsaid rule of the game. But definitely, Australia, who else but Australia start as favorites, right? You have the kind of pitches that you do in Australia, seeming bouncier than many other surfaces, and then suddenly in some sessions slow, and then those long boundary ropes where the ball really grinds to a halt, and then in the process of which you've actually run 4 runs, and then you are surprised कि यार ये चौका क्यों नहीं चला गया 4 रन भागने पड़े. So Australia will make you labor harder than any other track. But I think the West Indies are right now once again continuing on that restructuring, if not restructuring, then the path to self discovery where newer names are being introduced. But I really just think that one player for me who might not be a standout, but should actually, it's about time, deliver a standout performance with the bat, should be the wicket keeping batsman Joshua De Silva, who I'm supposed to make a separate video for another Caribbean portal because we've been in talks. So Shane Dowrich's retirement, something which is a recent phenomena, sh- definitely brings a lot of focus now on Joshua De Silva, whose last 10 innings haven't really produced a massive 50 plus score, or rather, has it even produced a 50 plus score? But the way that he batted like a champion and batted with so much of grit and determination in the recent series against, in the recent game, rather, recent drawn game against Australia A, that should have been, that should be a fodder of some motivation to take into the test match because, Taste and Chandrapal and Craig Brathwaite, barring them, and of course Alec Athanaze. Who's the other big fourth batsman? That's something which I'm finding hard to understand.
Hmm.
So I don't really know what's happening there.
So
So it seems like a bit of a depleted batting lineup. A bit.
So they, my only 2 cents on that is that for your sake and for West Indies self-discovery sake, I hope they make a match of their series in Australia. And I hope the names
Yeah.
that they're throwing out there, they perform. And cricket overall should be in a healthy space, Dave. That's all as we as writers should hope and should pray that it shouldn't only be about the big three. Like But
Shouldn't
if
be.
you see the reason that the SA T20, I'm digressing a little from the Australia South
Don't.
West Indies series. So there are two
Mhm.
reasons that the SA20 exists, right? One is to harness more talent from the depths of South African cricket. And second is to obviously make the South African cricket board healthier, financial, so to speak, in financial terms. But like the IPL could get a lot of good Indian cricketers to the playing 11 or to India's match 15. South Africa is also hoping in that light so that they can sort of bridge the gap between themselves and the big three. Now,
Right.
the other way to look at that is that because of the SA20 and because of the one day and T20 tournament, South Africa is only playing a two-match series, test series till the next test cycle, which obviously isn't healthy enough because if you win the second test and if you win the first one, you lose the second one, the series is drawn.
Yeah, it just does not give you a fair chance to really have a
Exactly.
real
Like
contest out
imagine the
there.
India series. South Africa won the first one, India won the second one. Say if you were heading to Johannesburg or to Durban or to Port Elizabeth to play the third one, it would have been so exciting on a good surface, which was conducive to bowling and batting. It would all be for takers, yeah. And then the SA20 could have started, but the cricketing window is such that T20 tournaments
I
need to
think I think Pranay,
as compared to
right.
other things.
No, absolutely well said, and I'm glad that you actually brought this point up because I would personally, as a cricket fan and somebody who easily comes to admire so many other people's work, so many other podcast content, and so much of exciting content which is coming out there. As somebody who doesn't take much time to appreciate and genuinely admire that, I think that there's a lot of scope for other content, cricket content producers also to be trying to raise the questions or perhaps at least hint at the questions that we are trying to do here. And I would like to draw your attention to one question I'm going to ask. Don't you think that there is this perennial lack of answerability from the powers that be, in whose hands is vested the massive question of steering the next era of cricket? Of course, it's a catch 2022 situation, Pranay. You would agree. You need the revenue. You need the revenue. I mean, not every cricket website out there is going to be stomaching the kind of challenge that we have, that we don't put ads out there. And I'm not trying to bask in the glory of self propagation, but we don't really put ads out there. Because why? Because we want people to have a complete ad free reading experience. We don't even ask for support us or buy us a coffee. Not that those ideas are bad, they are very, very relevant and very necessary ideas. But don't you think that there is a complete lack of answerability on where this game is headed, especially when there's a cash 2022 situation that yes, you need to make money, you need to take care of matters of commerce, and at the same time, you need to rescue Test cricket from a state of obscurity. And obscurity it is, my friend, when you have a series, when you have just two Test matches, when there could have been four, and you knew that. So that's what I'm saying. That players like Dean Elgar matter ever so little to the bigger lot, and they matter ever so much to a smaller lot, which actually is that Test purist who would have loved to see Dean go out. Not that he did not bow out with his head held high for all that he's done for South Africa. It would have been a fantastic series. Let's also give. Let's also not forget that Virat Kohli was in good form in that massively pathetic team performance by Indian team. That man's made 74 or 78 runs on his own. Yeah, so
In
it
the
would have been fantastic from both sides. But आपने क्या किया? आपने दो सीरीज में वो खत्म कर दिया. So our humble plea as Pranay and Dev, who are cricket writers, journalists, and content creators around the sport, we would love the ICC, the venerable almighty ICC, to just sort of perhaps put some insights out there. Ki where are we supposed to, like, what are we to expect from Test cricket? Like you have a, like at the beginning of 2024, 1st January, people have made resolutions. This is going to be the thing. This is not going to be the thing this year onwards. This is going to be my resolution, and this is a roadmap to achieve that resolution, right? तो क्या टेस्ट क्रिकेट के लिए क्या वो मापदंड है, क्या वो प्लानिंग है? Cricket is today, technically speaking, being played in over 100 countries of the world. So what is the roadmap to, for instance, Like if I give Pranay and Dev just 3 episodes, that increase of viewership, or then just then just otherwise then just be happy doing what you do. Can we give the cricket Germanys of the world, who by the way have an Indian an Indian woman who happens to be the captain of the German women's cricket team, just understand the impact and reach of India to shaping the sport? Can we have a roadmap to bring the other developing and rising nations up to speed in a certain amount of time? Is enough being done? Remember our conversation with Roberta. Is enough being done to support cricket Brazil the way it is? How soon can we expect them to be in the mainstream? Is Can there be the respective Virat Kohlis in a Germany, in a Brazil, in a Uganda, the equivalents of Kohli, and I mean their own Kohlis, their own superstars, their own stars, their own revered heroes? Why are we being denied of seeing that part? What is the plan to bring Zimbabwe back on its feet, and how soon can Zimbabwean Test cricket be fast tracked? How soon can the West Indies' progress be fast tracked into becoming the mainstream? Is there actually a plan in the first place of having the big all play cricket equally, or is it just going to be the big three? Am I making some sense?
No, Dave, I get what you're saying. My point is that I think when it comes to test cricket and it comes to the big three, right? They want to go and play the 4 match test series, the 5 match test series, because for the ICC per se, or for these three boards, in my humble opinion, it's like, look, we are promoting we're promoting test cricket, we're making it competitive because these are the three nations who play the best who in this format, and there's also revenue. So how are we killing test cricket? Versus, okay, fine, giving them that kind of credibility because they play well, taking that revenue, but not alienating the others. I don't know whether I'm making sense now.
No, you are perfectly, as always. Sense and sensibility actually augur well for international cricket's growth at this point in time, because never before has cricket been streamed or seen online so much as it is being. You would agree, with the advent of so many apps. So gone are the days where you had to just worry about some big media entity worrying about the ownership, the singularly having the ownership of a particular cricket series. You have the fan codes of the world who've done a tremendous job. You have Sony Sports
And
Network. You
it's
have so many
that
other apps, and they've done
aspect.
a tremendous job. And fan code, if you are listening, we want to offer nothing but our pure regard for you. So Pranay, bandwidth की भी कमी नहीं है. There are these. You have Willow TV in the Caribbean. So जैसे हमारे लिए national broadcasters हैं, they have Willow TV down there. South Africa have their own
United
channel. So
States, yeah,
yeah,
they've
so
been.
they have. There is an audience for cricket. But I would like you to dwell, just before we wrap up the episode, a bit more on the alienation, because I think it's a very relevant discussion that we need to have in a greater detail also in other episodes. Why do you think, if at all you think, that other teams are being alienated? Let's just dwell on it a bit more.
I think the reason is pretty simple. पैसा जहाँ से आता है क्रिकेट वहाँ पे ही होनी चाहिए. And the way people cover that up in a facade of those teams are performing or playing also really well. So why shouldn't cricket be restricted to them? Versus giving the other teams, like you said, an Indians captaining the German national team, the women's team, giving them a chance to.
Anuradha Doda Balapur, one of the most fascinating, intelligent, smart, professional, competitive, and team building captain, Anuradha. I've had the pleasure of actually interacting with her previously on a multiple occasions, and she's done her rigorous best to bring up German women's cricket team with the support of other people. So, of course, I just added to this point. Continue.
So the money needs to be plowed a little more to make these smaller teams play against the bigger teams. And like a classic case is how well Afghanistan plays against the bigger nations. Now, do you call Afghanistan a smaller team? I don't think so. I think they're
Not at all.
equally capable as a Pakistan or a New Zealand or a South Africa. For that matter, see Netherlands' ka growth story. See the way they've beaten South Africa in the T20 World Cup as well as the ODI World Cup. I don't consider them as a smaller team. And another country that I would like to talk about is Namibia. Namibia has some very fine talent with David Wiese also playing for them now. the captain, Herard Erasmus, they have some good bowlers, good batters, just that they need to play more competitive cricket. It's like if Dev and Pranay only talk between Dev and Pranay, they would both think that they're masters of their own wisdom. Versus if they are exposed to someone who's a
Which
better.
is what is happening right now. Which is exactly what is happening on this episode. How lucky. How mean of you. How mean. Okay, sorry, I have
Versus,
a joke from Cyrus Brocha. He says we broached the breach of trust.
versus if they're exposed to someone who can give them more insights into how they can improve themselves, then obviously there is a plan of action to grow, right?
Hmm. My final question, and I'm putting you in a spot of bother, not that you aren't already, because I've eaten so much of your time on a not so cold and foggy Mumbai morning, I'm sure.
Why is
What would
dry and
your
liquid?
humble what would your humble plea to the almighty and respectful ICC be at this point in time as a cricket content producer?
I think they've, for me, it's like earn the big bucks, but at least use a bit of them to get more good upcoming nations to play the mighty and the so-called best big three.
Okay. Do you want to ask mine?
Yeah, of course.
Recognize Pranay Rangra and Dev Tyagi as journalists par excellence and give us the international accreditation, of course. What else? कुछ तो दे दो भैया. अरे ऊपर से अभी कुछ गिरा एक feedback. तुम बहुत बकवास लिखते हो. Oh, thanks for telling me my truth. Thank you guys. So I think we've come to the end of what has been a very fascinating and an interesting and a very truth-telling episode. And we promise among ourselves to bring you more such episodes, viewers. So keep supporting us. कभी कभी वो like दबा दिया करो यार अच्छा लगता है. And please subscribe more to our YouTube channel and
ये
send
अगर
us
वो दबाएंगे
in the
नहीं तो हम लोग भेज सकते हैं दबाने के लिए.
बिल्कुल बेच सकते हैं आज के जमाने में तो क्या गुड नहीं हो सकता है. So please keep liking our videos and spread it if you want to. If you don't want to, it's cool. It still won't, decrease the fuel prices of the country. Oh, sorry. Of course, I just got a call from the PMO. No, 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 no. Sorry, that was from Alexa. Alexa, shut up. Okay, guys. So we'll see you another time. And thanks for your time, Pranay. Enjoy your Sunday. And what are your plans? Are you going to watch some South African innings, like some highlights of Jack Carlis or something like
Deal.
that?
So I'll watch a bit of SA20 and there's a New Zealand Pakistan T20 match at 11:40. Excited about that.
Hmm.
What are your plans?
I'm going to go back to supporting Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma as the best batsmen that the Indian cricketer has seen in a long time. So I'm going to do my needful. You stick to your choices, and I'll see you again soon, Pranay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Dev. Bye,
Good to
viewers.
have made our debut finally in 2024. See you.
See you guys.